Happy birthday, Jordan! How's it going, everybody? It's your favorite apostates, and today it's Jordan's birthday, so we're celebrating. To the day that you're seeing this, it is not Jordan's birthday. It was yesterday, but...
The day we are filming currently, it is my birthday.
It is Jordan's birthday today, so... The grind never stops over here, even though this was already put off a couple different times. So.
Killing it.
Anyway, we're back at it again with another one for you. Jordan has a birthday wish that she would like to talk about before we get started. Jordan,
Yay.
The time is yours.
Okay, so I had a few people DM us today about Venmoing me money for my birthday, and that makes me very uncomfortable. Mm-mm. Please do not do that. So if you feel so inclined and you would like to support me in a way, we have a better idea for you. So, as most of you know, we go to Yellowstone 2 to 3 times a year. And why do we go to Yellowstone 2 to 3 times a year?
Because we love to watch wolves. We
watch wolves because there are legit, wild, roam-free wolves that live in Yellowstone National Park. Now, currently, not good things are happening around the park in Yellowstone. Wolves are protected in the park. You aren't allowed to hunt them, trap them, kill them. They're protected in national parks. But based on the states around Yellowstone National Park, mainly Montana, if the wolves cross into Montana territory, which is out of the range of the boundaries of Yellowstone National Park, then the wolves are not protected by law, and you cannot be, nobody's held accountable. So Montana has a lot of trophy hunting for wolves, and they're really losers about it because they'll just trap and bait them. And so this has kind of become a sport on the edge of the park in Montana. So that being said, hunting this year has been absolutely out of control. The wolf population went from like 120 to 130 at the beginning of the hunting season to now they're down to 89, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. So what we encourage you to do and what we do ourselves is we donate to the Yellowstone Wolf Project. They are responsible for basically observing wolf behavior, and they track them. They put GPS collars on them. They do tons and tons of research. They just do amazing things. And the only reason that wolves are actually in the park today is because they were reintroduced in the 90s. And so we're back down to the numbers where they were originally introduced to the park, which is extremely concerning. Because at 120 to 130, we had a really healthy population in the park. And there are different packs within the park, and one of them has been completely wiped out this hunting season. So that being said, if you feel like making a charitable donation in your life at any point in time, I'm going to put a link in the description to the Yellowstone Wolf Project. It is a 501c3. It's under the Yellowstone Forever Fund, which is a nonprofit. And so you can trust that it's reputable and your money is going directly where it says it's going. And so I will put that link in the description. Should you decide to donate, please let us know in some way, shape, or form, and we are going to match your donation. So,
yeah, don't resort to DMing Jordan on Instagram. Email us a screenshot or something. That'll be the easiest way. We'll just total them up and then make a donation.
Or comment it on
Jordan's birthday post.
On my birthday post on Instagram, or put it in the comments here on the video.
Yeah. We want to match all of that, so I'm going to try and keep up.
Because DMs get lost, so put it in places that we will see it.
We'll just have like a running list or something like that, so... Happy birthday, Jordan. If you would like to participate in that, it would mean a lot to us. Yeah. It's a thing that we love. Yeah.
It makes me very sad.
I don't really have anything against hunting, but trapping wolves is kind of shitty, honestly.
Because they are protected. So. Plus, they had protections in other parts of the United States. Protection was restored because wolf populations are declining so drastically. but those protections are currently not enforced in the Rocky Mountain region, which is what wolf biologists and advocates are trying to do. So Interior Secretary Deb Haaland has mentioned those things like recently, but there hasn't been any action on that. So currently the wolves are still being hunted and killed by trophy hunters in the Montana area. So let's help
there you go.
Not make that happen.
There you go. We love wolves a lot more than humans sometimes. So
that's true.
Anyway, thank you for listening to that, and maybe consider donating to a good cause. But we're going to go on from there to today's topic, which is, drum roll please. Just kidding. I'm going to take this hat off. Which is some missionary stories, which we kind of... Oh. I shared some missionary stories the last time, some cringe stuff. Oh, we're going to keep the usage of the word cringe to a minimum this time around. I think it got a little out of hand last time we were talking about dating horror stories. So Jordan found some stories on Reddit, which usually is a pretty good fountain, a good source, if you will, of running the gamut of everything missionary and ex-Mormonism. So we're going to take a look at some stories. Some background, I just want to lay a little bit out there. Some people are not really aware of what goes on with the missionary program in the LDS Church. So just to paint a little bit of a picture up front, and we'll probably be talking about some unknown vocabulary to people who are outside Nevermos and things like that.
Mormon vocabulary speed round.
We're going to be talking about companions. A missionary is to have a companion, which is another missionary that's assigned to them. You don't get to pick your companions.
That is the same gender.
The same gender, yeah. We're only talking about men with men and women with women because gender is binary in the Mormon Church. We always say that because, yeah.
Just even though,
yeah, just erasing all kinds of people. That's what you're supposed to adhere to. So companion is a person that you're supposed to remain with at all times, every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the exception of being in the bathroom. That's the only time that you're not going to be with them. And sometimes mission presidents, which is kind of the governing guy in charge of all the missionaries in a given area, might put a time limit on your bathroom usage so you're not
fooling around.
You're not being tempted with your idle hands. As Jen would put it,
the devil's instruments.
the devil's fleshlights. So missionary companions, that's what that is. Mission president I kind of touched on.
What is the MTC?
The MTC is the Missionary Training Center, which missionaries go to for a period of time, which kind of varies. It's dependent on if you're learning a language or not. That will at least double the time that you spend in the MTC. And then what language you are learning. I was in the MTC for 6 long weeks in Guatemala, and it was a prison, basically. It sucked. What's another word that might come up?
P-Day.
P-Day, short for preparation day, is a appointed day each week that you get to now you get to call home. When I was a missionary, it was just emailing. At one point in time, it was just writing. You get to do your laundry, get your hair cut, and then you don't even get the whole day to do those things. Sometimes you get some recreation time. But yeah, you're supposed to, usually by 4 p.m., be ready to go, and you do missionary stuff at night. So preparation day for most of the time, and then also doing normal missionary stuff. Areas, zones, missions is kind of how the missionary field, if you will, is divided up. Each area usually has 1 to 2 companionships. Each zone has a couple areas with companionships in them, and missions have multiple zones in them. And then you could even go region above that, but that's
because if it wasn't complicated enough,
everything gets divided up. Sometimes you usually have like a companionship assigned to a congregation. Sometimes they get assigned to multiple congregations, and sometimes a congregation gets assigned multiple companionships of missionaries. It's all up to revelation, but really it's just all up to the mission president and his assistants, which are 2 missionaries that are assigned to be his assistants, decide is best for the area. Those areas are assigned, right? You can't just change whenever you want. Usually there will be changes after a 6-week period, which a lot of missionaries will refer to as transfers. They just call that period as a transfer, and then at the end of 6 weeks, they will make changes. Sometimes there are changes in the middle of those 6-week periods. Sometimes if there's a big problem, they'll have emergency transfers and switch people around and everything like that. But that's just a couple things that I can think of off the top of my head that I can probably imagine some of these stories are going to talk about. A normal missionary day. So a missionary schedule is basically laid out for them. You're not really supposed to take any liberties with the scheduling other than how you do your missionary work. How I think it may have changed a little bit, but basically this is written in the handbook, and it's changed since I was a missionary, but we were to wake up at 6:30 every single morning, do prayer and shower and eat breakfast, and then by 8 o'clock have personal scripture study, which was also limited to the standard works and the missionary library and Preach My Gospel. So really there was only like 6 books that we were allowed to read from to study for 2 whole years. After that, we would do a companionship study with you and your companion, basically like reading up on things so that the people you're teaching about the church, like you can resolve their doubts and everything like that. And then after that, from 10 until 8 o'clock was your proselytizing time. So that would be making appointments, knocking on doors, and asking people if they want to hear about Joseph Smith. Not his Rock in the Hat, but a very whitewashed version. And just hoping that people would be blindsided enough that they would make the mistake to join a church without knowing.
Now those things have changed quite a bit. There's much more, like, when you were a missionary, you weren't allowed to get on Facebook or social media or anything.
Absolutely
now, missionaries are in, like, joining local Facebook groups and sending messages to people in the neighborhood. And so tactics have greatly shifted.
Yeah. They have lightened up a lot.
You used to only be able to talk to your family when? Twice a year?
Twice a year we would do like a Skype call. And that was even lightening up since from when my dad was on a mission. Like they would only get a phone call. And it was really...
And we're not talking like no phone calls. Like you could physically on the phone talk to your parents twice a year. That was it.
Yeah. Now it's since changed and they can call home weekly, which I think overall is a good thing. There's a lot of people who are kind of like when I was a missionary, we only got to call home one time a year and we only wrote letters and you didn't hear back from people. Nobody cares. It's better for people's mental health.
We're happy to hear that change.
To have communication more than twice a year with their family, like direct communication. So that's great. I love to see them lightening up. It is really weird to see missionaries on social media, like doing TikTok dances and stuff.
It's weird, y'all.
It's kind of odd.
But they're trying to transition with the times, man, right?
Yeah, they're trying to keep up with the times, and they're also doing a lot shittier tactics in infiltrating Facebook groups and putting Facebook Marketplace ads for like church tours and things like that. So
and they'll post, and there was one instance that I saw from a group that I was in where it was a local moms group, and one of the missionaries came in and posted and was like, "Who just needs a message of positivity today? I'll DM you." So that seems really, nice, right? Just a positive message. And then you find out that they're missionaries and they're Mormon and they're trying to sell you something.
The Mormons, god damn it.
Oh.
I thought it was going to be Scentsy.
But that's the thing, right? Is technology is their friend and their enemy at this point. TikTok is their friend and their enemy. I would argue it's more an enemy than a friend at this point. So
Honestly.
they're trying to combat that internet, the information that people have gleaned about the Mormon church. So they've got to be a lot sneakier about what they're doing, which is evident in what they're trying to do now. There was another post in my Facebook group a few days ago where somebody was in a Walmart at like 8:30 at night, and there were missionaries just walking around the store trying to talk to people. So it seems that the church is getting a little more desperate in how they are.
Yeah, at least here in the United States. In other places, it's probably different. I feel like the vibe for me was really different in Honduras than people. I mean, I literally like a week after I came home from my mission, the missionary that was in my family's home ward, his companion went home early and he was just by himself. So because you need to be with a companion all the time, he had to be taken away from his area and go to a different area to work with the other missionaries in a different area. And in order for the work to not die, that's kind of a phrase that we used to use in his area, so they can continue teaching people. He would need people to go with him, people like me who were recently returned from their mission, to go with him and do stuff with him. So I remember I went knocking doors with him in a neighborhood that was like really not far away from my house, and it was like so demoralizing. I was like, damn, I would knock like 5 doors and at least one person would let me in out of pity. And we probably knocked an entire neighborhood and not a single person gave us the time of day. I was like, wow, people are just so hard here. But now I'm thinking about it now and I'm like, oh, wow, people just were really wise to the bullshit already at that point.
And we probably should have stated at the beginning of this, women can also go on missions. We get that question a lot. However, they cannot leave until they're 19 versus men can leave at 18. Yeah,
so 19 to whatever age. A single woman that is over the age of 19 of any age can go on a mission and be among
Don't they have an age limit for men?
There is an age limit for men.
Isn't
so
like
18 to 25 from 25. What I remember. It may have changed, but 25 is the cutoff for men.
Those poor single sisters that don't have anything else to live for. If they haven't been married, then they're just going to go on a mission.
Just go on a mission because that's the only way you'll find meaning in your life if you're a single person, apparently. So,
okay, tell us about some rules.
Rules. Oh, yeah, rules. There are a lot of rules and this is just kind of, I'm trying to keep it light and just some highlights. There's an entire thing. We used to read it on a weekly basis called the Missionary Handbook. We called it the White Bible. Had all the rules and regulations of missionaries in there, down to when you should not take photographs with your camera.
Rule speed round. Start naming some off.
You are not allowed to swim. Partially because it's a liability and partially because there is a revelation in the Book of Doctrine and Covenants where a man, I can't remember who it was, while they were traveling on the Missouri River or Mississippi River, one of the two, saw the devil riding on a wave. So this kind of is the idea that the devil is in control of the waters.
So you can't swim because of this weird Mormon story.
Can't swim, yep.
Because the devil owns the waters, okay?
So there's a good one. Another good one, when you are doing your weekly emailing to your family and everybody else, you're supposed to sit in a place where your companion can see your computer screen. Just in case you're, viewing explicit material.
No touching yourself.
Yep. You're supposed to live all of the rules of Mormonism.
But
at all times.
With more scrupulosity.
Yes, because you're supposed to be teaching it. And you're supposed to have the Holy Ghost with you. So if you're not living the commandments to a T, then you don't have the Holy Ghost with you, and then you can't baptize people.
And then you could possibly be sent home for those behaviors.
Yeah, if you are breaking commandments of some sorts.
You can't touch other opposite sex.
Nope, not even hugging. Not even supposed to do that.
Nope.
not even like people that you know. So once you're set apart as a missionary, they like give you a little blessing to set you apart. The stake president does. And then, like
your garmies are activated. It's like your missionary.
The missionary mantle settles on you, and then you're not allowed to touch the opposite sex anymore at all. You're just supposed to shake hands. Another interesting one is that if you're two missionary men, you're not allowed to go in a house alone with a single woman, which I think is a good idea to avoid any sort of mischief. And
they follow that one with great rigidity.
Yeah, like, not me. When we were in Honduras, it was just you did whatever, honestly.
The missionaries in our ward would sometimes walk me home from school because I was the rebellious member that they were trying to get to come back to church, right? So it was the two elders, they'd walk me home from school, and one of them had to pee really bad one day. And I was like, why don't you just come in and pee? And he was like, I can't. And I was like, okay, well, what if I stand outside and then you can go pee? So I literally had to stand outside in our driveway while he went into our house and peed. And then
what if he stole shit?
He was also an old missionary. He was 25.
Oh, okay. I had a companion who was one of those missionaries. It was like right before he turned 25. Yeah. Cool guy, honestly.
I remember him. He was very nice.
It's better for these missionaries to be like fully developed in my mind, because then they don't do stupid shit like ride their bike down the stairs in their apartment complex just to face plant at the bottom. That's another thing. Transportation. You've probably seen Mormon missionaries on their bicycles. Is like a freaking really popular image that people conjure up in their minds. I think in a lot of places that's kind of going away because the church can afford cars. Sometimes it's like a privilege, like the sister missionaries get the cars because if they have to wear a dress, riding a bike just kind of blows.
But they're even pretty strict about the cars. Like they have a speed lock.
Oh, they have like a super
expensive.
It's not a lock. It's kind of on an armor system, but it logs GPS locations, how you're accelerating, how you're stopping, amount of fuel, the amount of miles and everything. So there's it's the accountability booster.
Yeah.
So there's interesting things about that. Well, I never had bikes oh yeah, your companion's supposed to like guide you back.
They have to get, like when you're backing out of a parking space, one of the companions has to get out and stand behind the car while the other one backs out. And they did this numerous times when I went places with them, and I always thought it was the weirdest fucking thing.
Honestly, it is kind of like a no-nonsense thing, and I would especially suggest it for the Utah the Utah native missionaries, because oh my god, driving here in Utah is just
no secular music.
Another thing.
No TV.
Secular music. If you do listen to music, you are not allowed to listen to music with headphones in, because your companion should be able to hear what you're listening to at all times.
So like basically Mormon Tabernacle Choir or nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's some mission presidents will have a little bit of leeway with that and say, oh, you can listen to music from Disney movies and things like that. But generally, on the whole, it's outlined in the handbook that it should be uplifting, inviting the spirit, should not have fast beats or suggestive lyrics.
So basically anything on the radio.
Yeah, that's a bit of a fast beats is something that was really odd for me. Yeah, no watching movies, no watching TV.
Nope.
No
conference
using,
only. Twice a year.
Yep, being there for general conference is basically the only exception on that. Our mission president would let us watch Disney movies if we did it as a missionary activity on our P Day with the whole like group of missionaries.
What about playing cards?
You're not supposed to play cards. I got in trouble for playing cards once because my baby companion ratted on us, even though he was playing too. So
little shit pot.
Yeah. I still love him. He was a good kid. I don't know why I say it wasn't like he was much younger than me. He's my age. He's a good guy. In my mission, the mission president, like halfway through my time, he made it a point that like one man missionary should not take a picture with one sister missionary because it could be misconstrued, or like even if they're companions where like one's taking the picture and the other one is standing right next to the person taking the picture. Like he was like, no, we can't have people misconstruing this as like missionaries in relationships or anything. I was like, oh my God,
liability.
Everything literally is a liability. That's why our cameras were confiscated from us when I got to the MTC in Guatemala, because of people posting photos that could be misconstrued and things of that sort. So being a missionary it's hell. Honestly, there's so much shit.
What was your expectations around, and obviously this is different based on your mission president and where you are, but what was your mission president's expectations of you, of how many people you're baptizing?
He didn't really have expectations for us. Really, he was wanting us to baptize at least one a month. My mission president was a lot less intense on that. Now, the mission president reports to the area presidency, which they're above multiple missions. So this was the Central America mission presidency, or the area presidency that was over all of Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and all these places like that. And in the area presidency was a man named Alonso. I can't remember his first name, but he was the mission president for a good friend that we have made through Exmo TikTok. And he was, this was in Tijuana, and he was so strict that missionaries should be baptizing people every Saturday. Every Saturday was the expectation. And if not, then he would come to your area and he would ream your ass for not being obedient enough, not working hard enough, all these things. So it all really is up to the mission president, how hard or lax they want to be about things. And it can be really stressful and really, I would go as far as to say abusive.
Because they, at times, based on your mission president, they blame the missionary. So, like, if you're not baptizing people, they're like, well, you must be sinning. What are you doing? You're not reading your scriptures enough. You're not praying enough. You're not being faithful. You're not obedient enough. And so a lot of it comes down to shaming the poor missionaries who aren't doing anything wrong. And then, you know, you wonder where Mormon shame and religious scrupulosity comes from within Mormonism. Because then they feel like you're doing something wrong for not getting people to be baptized, when in reality, Mormons believe in free agency. Everybody has their own free will and ability to choose, right? And so somebody praying shouldn't be able to control somebody else's behavior. And so you can pray to the ends of the earth, and that doesn't mean that the person you're trying to speak to will ever get baptized. Plus, it's also common for, in the story, I think there's one that I'll read you today that says this, but some missions, the expectation that they tell missionaries is that you need to be inviting people to baptism in the first, like, conversation you have with the person, which is kind of insane.
Absolutely insane, because the idea is that you don't want to waste time with people who, aren't prepared to be baptized. Which, I mean, is kind of a good idea, because you would be wasting a lot of time.
But it's also kind of crazy.
People who are a little wise.
Like, you're just having these conversations, and they're like, let us tell you about our church. And then 10 minutes later, they're like, you've heard 15 minutes. Would you like to be baptized?
Yeah. In relation to what you said about the scrupulosity piece, if you listen to Mormon Stories podcast, Mark Osland, probably one of my favorite Mormon Stories podcasts that we've listened to, he, in his missionary experience, is a perfect case study on what Jordan was referring to with scrupulosity within missionary work, because he was a convert. And at one point, because he was a quote unquote an ineffective missionary, he thought he was confessing to sins that he didn't even commit, because he thought he was unworthy of being able to be an effective missionary. So if you haven't checked that out, I don't know what number it is. Mark Osland is his name, M-A-R-C. But yeah, that's...
And so they have to, in line with those rules, they have to live that way for 2 years, right?
2 years straight.
And so for a lot of them, the transition back from being a missionary to Mormon, like regular daily Mormon life, not following mission rules, can be really, really difficult. Yeah,
the mission broke is what we called it in one of the previous videos. So here's my little shtick here's my little thing about missionaries, right? They're living to these like god awfully high standards, and it can be a really heavy thing in a lot of cases. If a missionary is not being like outwardly abusive to them, please be nice to them, because they're dealing with a lot of shit. They don't need people to harass them also. And this is coming from a person who would love to harass some missionaries. But A, you're not going to accomplish anything. And if you do, it might be a backfire effect. And B, a lot of them are fresh out of high school. They really have no other real world experience. So they might still just be figuring shit out, especially if they're from Utah Valley, Utah. And literally the hardest thing that they've done was put a spare tire on because they were out at Squaw Peak too late, Nick mowing with a girl. I don't know, dude. Anyway, so be nice to them.
That's always our stick on that.
Don't, obviously, if they're being abusive, you have the opportunity. It is your life. You can deal with it
friendly and still set a boundary.
Yeah,
and tell them you're not interested. That's fine. But we also encourage people, if you're able to be a safe space for them. There are people in our comments that have said before, you know, when they come around, and she's like, I've had ones that, you know, I could obviously tell we're having a difficult time. And so I asked them if they wanted to call their parents, and I've given them my phone. And obviously that is against mission rules, and they should not be doing that per the mission rules and per the mission handbook. But if you can be that safe place or that safe person for those missionaries, they can have a really positive experience. Because like McKay said, the last thing that we want them to do is they're like, oh God, the non-Mormon people are assholes.
Are terrible. The church is right about the secular world. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. So
that's the last thing we want. So, and it's probably obvious as we talked about this, that indoctrinating youth to stay in the church, a 2-year mission where all they're doing is trying to bring other people into the religion, is a really good way to ensure that people stay in the church. It's a huge piece of indoctrination, especially as a young adult. That means big money for the church, and there's a reason they encourage it, and it's absolutely expected of young men. It's not expected of women, but it is expected of young men.
Every man a missionary was what I grew up hearing.
And yes,
that was the mantra. That's what everybody said.
I feel like it still is for the most part. Maybe they've lessened a little bit.
I think they've lessened it a little bit, but it's still the idea.
You can go home early, but I don't remember if I included one of the stories, but there are some instances where missionaries have been having suicidal ideation, and missionary presidents still won't send them home. And so you have some that are like, oh my gosh, you are really, really struggling. We probably need some mental health help here. We're going to send you home early. And sometimes that happens, but sometimes it doesn't. So.
Yeah. There's no blanket acceptance of mental health care, I guess.
There's also really no handbook as far as, it's the same thing with like sinning and needing to go to the bishop about it outside of a mission. It's the same thing if you're getting disciplined for breaking a rule on your mission.
It's up to the mission president.
The mission president really has a lot of leeway in deciding what's going to happen to that missionary. It's not like missionary masturbated, so they get XYZ. Missionary took a picture with a sister, they get XY. Like, it's really up to the mission president. And so those experiences are going to vastly differ.
Totally.
Based on the person.
Anyway.
Okay, let's get into it.
Last point before we do that, missionaries pay to be there. They pay.
That's an important part.
Yeah. They're not getting paid. They are paying to give free labor to the church.
It's like an internship.
It's like, an internship. It's the worst kind. Because you don't get anything except a dumb certificate, maybe, when you're done.
Yeah.
So, anyway, after that little bit about missionaries, let's read some stories from Reddit. And,
So, full disclosure, there are some mission stories that are really funny. And they're, they're like, haha, funny.
Silly, goofy mood.
Like, obviously, missionaries do really stupid things, and so it's kind of funny. But the vast majority of mission stories that you'll encounter are sad. Like, they're just really, reminiscent of enduring some pretty intense things. And so the majority of these are on the more intense, sadder side. So just keep that in mind.
Great.
If you're
I was thinking we were going to have a good time today.
Some of them are. Some of them are going to probably frustrate you. Some of them are going to be sad. So if you're not in a place for that, we understand if you need to navigate away. Thank you for staying thus far. Okay. I think the first one's funny.
Let's throw this up on the screen. Mirroring. There's your code. That way I can read them too. And you don't have to hold your phone up the whole time.
Yikes.
What is going on here? We scroll and then turn it to the side.
My thing lock is on.
You would. Close out of it and then reopen it. There we go. There we go. Much better.
Okay. Ready?
Ready.
This one's funny. Once we were approaching an intersection where a cop car was stopped. My companion from Salt Lake City urged me to go through the stop sign so that the cops would put us in jail and he could command the jail walls to fall down. I swear this happened.
Oh my God.
There are some very interesting people who go on missions.
I don't know if this is also a biblical story, but there's a story in the Book of Mormon where missionaries, I think it's Alma and Amulek, I can't remember, they get thrown in jail, and that's what happens. They command the walls of the jail to fall down around them, and they're like, whoa, look at us. We have the power of God in us. So this is
also it's
from SLC. Yeah, they
funny.
really meant Provo on this one. I can just sense the 10th generation Mormonism on this one.
Also, it's hilarious to me that he thinks running a stop sign will put you in jail. So
that guy's worst crime he ever committed was stealing his sister's pixie stick, probably.
Generally, that's not what's going to happen if you run a stop sign.
Man. Yeah, that's interesting.
This other one is a bit longer, but it's funny, mostly. So this dude is talking about when he got transferred to this area with a new, like he had just come in as the new companion to be with a different companion, and this is kind of what happened. So these two, as we walked around the little town, I noticed that we were getting dirty looks and rude treatment from the members of the ward. So the members of the congregation, the church members. Women especially seemed on edge when we were around. I asked my companion about it, and he said that there were apostate missionaries stationed there before he arrived, and that we needed to build trust with the members.
I just want to interject here. Apostate missionaries, I don't know if that could refer to somebody who ended up committing sexual sin, quote unquote, with somebody in the ward. There were also a lot of tall tales of missionaries who were doing satanic rituals. So that's a really broad term. I don't really know what they mean by that. Anyway, continue.
A few weeks after I arrived, I wake up in the middle of the night to my companion just gone. So remember, they're not supposed to do that.
Uh-oh.
We lived alone in a huge, spooky old hotel that a member owned, so I thought he might be somewhere else in the hotel and went exploring. I go up a few flights of stairs and immediately hear the telltale sounds of hot and heavy sex.
Oh.
Shocked, I went back to our room. I decided to hold off on calling the mission president and to confront him about it first. When he tried to sneak back into our room a while later, I called him out and he confessed everything. Check this out. This guy had been doing this every night for the last 2 months and with nearly every young woman in the ward, about 12 girls if I remember right, and several of the single moms in the area, and 3 of our investigators, 2 of which were married.
Oh my God.
This guy was fucking legendary, and he was doing it all behind my back while I was asleep. I didn't need to tattle on him. He called the president right away and told him everything. He was gone the next morning. The area had to be shut down, and I was told to keep quiet about the whole thing. My mission kept me as a junior companion until my very last transfer, so I think that he suspected I was somehow complicit in all of the fucking of the farmers' daughters out there. So obviously it is not appropriate to be engaging in sexual relations with young women. Obviously completely disgusting and inappropriate
Young
behavior.
women is anybody under the age of 18, basically.
So that's a problem, and obviously if you've watched us for a minute, you know that there is a pattern of sexual abuse in the church, and you know that that sexual abuse is usually kept under wraps and not reported. So I imagine that probably was the case here.
Yeah, that is some heavy shit. Also, missionaries are like rock stars in a sense, kind of like small town rock stars, because everybody loves the missionaries. Oh, the missionaries are so awesome. They're doing such a great service to God. So that's pretty extreme, but it tracks, honestly.
This one I cut off half of because it was really long, but the context of this essentially is the elder was engaging, I think, in a sexual relationship with either one of the sisters or one of the members of the ward. So again, we've got sexual transgressions going on. So this is a bit of a blurb. After the few days, we all drove back to wherever they were at, where I was to meet with the area president, right? Because he's in trouble.
Vinya. Just say Vinya.
Beyond the point. So one of the elders of the 70 was feared by us missionaries to begin with, but was being told I was to meet with him to talk about what happened was more than I could bear.
Elder O of the 70, that's a leadership position. It's not a missionary, like
that's a high up.
Talking about. Yeah.
I met with him at the mission home, and for what I felt like hours, he grilled me about the details of what had happened. He wanted to know everything. It was humiliating, to say the least. After a while, he asked me to wait outside, and he made a call. After 15 minutes or so, he called me back in and told me I was being reassigned to the Santiago North Mission and that I was never to tell anyone about this ever. Not my future wife, not any companions, no bishops, no one. So, oops, you all know now.
Whoops.
I asked him, how am I not going home? I was told someone higher up than him said that's what was going to happen. He gave me his card with his phone numbers and said I was only to call him if I ever needed to talk about it. He did have a screenshot for this too. For a number of reasons, I immediately got the feeling this was being covered up because my dad was a mission president and they didn't want to send me home because of how bad it would look. At the time, I had this weird feeling of both relief that I wouldn't be shamed by being sent home and also dread that I still had to stay and finish the remaining months of my mission. Also, the guilt. I felt like such a piece of shit. Years later, I came across an email between my father and his business partner, Elder Ballard's son-in-law, where they discussed getting it okayed for me to stay via Elder Ballard. So yes, Elder Ballard knew I had sex on my mission and said it was okay for me to stay. And yes, Dad, I know that part of the story.
Oof. Elder Ballard, that is one of the 12 apostles that said this.
Every time we look at you, I know you're just waiting for me to talk about marriage, aren't you? I would not want to disappoint you. I just simply say to you, brethren, wake up. Open your eyes and look around a little. And you beautiful girls, don't wander around looking like men. Put on a little lipstick now and then and look a little charming. It's that simple.
Put a little lipstick on. So
he's one of the 12 apostles of the Lord, you guys. Like he's under the prophet. He's like directly under the prophet. And is like, you're okay to have sex because I say so.
Dad is a mission president and we don't want it to look bad. So transgression and sin are okay so long as you have connections, everybody. You heard it here.
Then you're good.
You heard it here
first. The boys club.
Yep. While handing out programs at a baptism, we had a gentleman walk in without any arms. The missionary next to me didn't notice and tried to hand him a program. Then quickly realized he didn't have a right arm and he moved the program to the left arm. Then in a panic, as he realized this man couldn't grab the program, the missionary slowly raised it to the man's mouth. The poor guy opened his mouth so the awkward missionary could give him the program. It took every fiber of my being to control the loud laughter, which is a commandment or a covenant that you make.
Oh my God.
Oh, yikes.
Obviously, we are not laughing at this person.
The missionary's reaction.
The missionary's reaction is what we're discussing here, because that's just there's really no recovery after that. You kind of just I don't know why putting it in his mouth was the thing. I would have been like, hey, can I put this in your seat? Like, where are you gonna sit? And I'll leave it on your chair. Like, he panicked. He panicked.
That was a panic. Oh my God. Next.
So this one is a running list, and I'm going to read this to you because this is just a whole mission experience. Stray cat gave birth in my companion's dresser. Jungle bugs literally ate my scriptures. Companion was bitten by a monkey after specifically being asked not to let the monkey bite him and telling me in no uncertain terms that he knew what he was doing. Companion developed a large boil right above his eye. Quasimodo. Companion got a head stuck in a bus door. Branch president drove around town on a motor scooter in his garments frequently. Companion developed pneumonia from bat shit in our ceiling. Guy tried to stab me after yelling about George Bush. Baby projectile pooped on my companion during a lesson.
Whoa.
Now, if this isn't a beautiful Mormon mission experience right here, I don't know what is. There is so much chaos happening here.
People will wear this shit like a badge of honor. And in this case, like literally, baby shit like a badge of honor.
George Bush makes me think it was a stateside mission, but I don't know. He's talking about monkeys, so probably not.
Not necessarily.
So that's funny. Also, can we talk about the branch president on a motor scooter in his garments? Like, it's probably hot, but dude.
You would be surprised.
I know. Your experience was very different.
Very different.
In that sense. But in the United States, you would, the
Mormons clutch their pearls when visible garments are out and about.
You won't go and grab your trash can when there's nobody out at night in your garments, like, because you're afraid of seeing people. Like, so the fact that people just walk around in them in other countries is pretty standard in other countries, just not in the United States.
Pretty standard. Not everybody, but
at least that was your experience, right?
Yeah. When it's hot. I mean, it's not fair to have to wear that shit and other stuff when it's
but you did
hot as shit. I did, but other people don't.
You had to follow the rules.
Yeah. During our companionship inventory each week, we were required by the mission president to share with our companions how many times we had masturbated each week. It was a method to shame us for it, and every missionary was doing it. Facts. We were also required to report that number along with our weekly numbers and directly to the mission president in our emails. That is interesting.
That is gross. This is gross behavior.
That is gross
Not
behavior.
the masturbating, the having to disclose that to an old man because he's very concerned about it.
Yeah, and to shame people for it, honestly. If you're going to be that intense about sexual sin and transgression, at least let people blow off a little steam.
Now, there are mission presidents who are so pressed about this issue that they will send people home over it if they're doing it too often and they can't get it under control, because you're not supposed to be doing it at all. But then there are mission presidents, like a story that I read when I was searching for these was, we had this missionary that was struggling with not masturbating on his mission, went to confess to the mission president, and he was like, Elder, if I were to enforce this and send everyone home who had masturbated, all the elders would be going home and half of the sisters would too. So that's kind of a more realistic...
Half the sisters?
I think that's kind of a
Didn't
diss.
report.
But
Just kidding.
We have this male-female double standard, right, of, women can't be sexual beings. But that's kind of, I think, again, you have some mission presidents are very rigid and some are like, that's ridiculous. Just try not to do it.
Yeah. So that's always fun. A cockroach fell out of my skirt and I got punched at a Chick-fil-A.
This one was
if you were
just
ever going to
randomly
get punched
in there.
anywhere at Chick-fil-A, I guess would be the place to get punched,
This
honestly.
was just so specific and so vague at the same time. I just had to include it because I thought it was so funny.
Oh, on the cockroach note, one time my companion left a bag of cereal open and he went to pour it out in the morning and a cockroach fell out into his bowl.
I could never.
Could never.
Okay, so this is just a few experiences that I thought were kind of helpful to kind of illustrate. So our mission had a very big culture of if you're not baptizing on a weekly basis, you were either harboring unrepentant sins or not praying sincerely enough, like we talked about earlier. We weren't allowed to take an hour for dinner since that was prime proselyting time. Proselyting time. I can never say this right.
Dude, that was us too. They were trying
dinners?
to tell us to only take a half an hour and to take it like at 6 so that you could be out and about from like 6:30 to 8
that's because when people are home.
I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what people want because they're home. Oh, we're home, so you can come in and talk your bullshit to me after I just had a long day at work. Honestly, that's such dumb logic.
So prime proselyting time, so I ended up usually grabbing chips or a Snickers from a corner store. Our houses were unsafe. I had one that was a second floor, and one wall was just a chain link fence with a tarp over it. And it was winter, and it got down to the 30s at night. We had to request a ton of extra blankets to stay warm and moved the stove into our study so we could turn on the oven and open the door for warmth. I had a companion who was convinced a demon was trying to take over her body at night. She was my first trainer, and I had to basically keep her from hurting herself while I was dealing with my own mental shit. My mission was the hardest thing I've ever done. I literally wrote down the number of days I had left so I could cross them off one by one.
Oh my God, I just had unlocked a memory. The convinced a demon was trying to take over her body at night. We had that exact same thing at the MTC. I totally forgot about it. And I remember, I don't want to say his name, but I remember his name. And I was the leader. I was the zone leader of the missionary elders at the time. So it kind of fell to me to kind of handle this with the MTC president. And we were worried one night because he had a pocket knife and he was saying violent things all day to his companion. And his companion took me aside and was like, yo, this is what Elder so-and-so has been selling me, and I am worried. So I had to talk with the mission president about it. Multiple times he had conversations with the mission or the MTC president. And this dude was really, really on the struggle bus. And I mean, no disrespect to him. He was going through it, but the mission president did not send him home. So it was...
A lot of them don't address these really severe mental health issues. And so, that's just extremely inappropriate. And I mean, that could be manifesting as psychosis. That is behavior that needed to be addressed, obviously. Also, I wanted to comment on this in the living conditions that these elders or sisters, I don't know if it said specifically, were living in. So herself,
Sister.
So these sisters were living in. Mormons, the mentality is the worse you have it on your mission, the better the blessings are, right? So, and it's they're encouraged to suffer, right? When they're really going through it and they're really having trials, they're like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is strengthening my relationship with the Lord. So it's almost like there's this weird dying to, have this really tough experience so I can prove myself a good member and I can prove myself a faithful missionary. And then I can tell people about it and they're going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah, it ends up being a faith affirming experience. Yeah, I had houses, never to that extent, but some of the living arrangements that I had were less than ideal. Nothing that was out of the ordinary for the area, so I totally understand, but yeah. Second mission president told us to only preach the gospel in English in rural Philippines because it was our job to teach the natives English so that they may be more educated and they would need to speak English in heaven. Holy shit. Yeah, that is so colonizery. It's not even funny, especially because most people in the Philippines are already bilingual because they have their local language they speak and then Tagalog that they also speak. So
there's a lot of this happening. It's very much at least in my opinion, when you look at things like this, they send missionaries there with the same mentality that some of the the tenets of the Book of Mormon was, brown and black people are,
cursed.
They're cursed. They don't have access to the blessings and, the things that the Lord provides because they don't know and they're cursed. So it's our job as white people to save them and, protect them from their, their heritage, their culture, in order to make them white and delightsome. So that's very much the mentality, and that's consistent with American history.
Yeah.
That's consistent with the Book of Mormon.
Doing English lessons was always a huge thing for missionary opportunities. They were always like, you can set up English classes and teach people English so that you can shoehorn your way into teaching them about the Mormon church. But it wasn't like, oh, here we're doing you a service and you can learn English and, you could maybe do something with that little knowledge and kind of move up to higher education and actually learning English instead of some dipshit kid from Colorado like me who's just going to teach you things like, hello, brother McKay, where's the bathroom? So it's never just a favor. It's always in the background of things. We're going to teach you about Mormonism when we're doing it. So
this is very much an issue that we could spend a lot of time on because it's very prevalent within missions and, with respect to culture and indigenous people and things of that nature. It's very much a problem for missions and missionaries. But we would have to talk about that forever. So that's one we can return to at another day. After being married for 18 years, my husband just told me this story. A day or two before my mission, my dad gave me a hug and whispered in my ear, "I'd rather see you come home in a casket than come home unworthy." He then kissed me on the cheek and left me wondering what just happened.
This is
a common mentality.
Common, yeah. Unworthy meaning come home early, not finished with honors, serving your full 2 years.
Like even if you came home because of health issues or because of mental health concerns or your leg was broken or things of that nature, that's still considered coming home unworthy,
in a lot of circles, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of shifted a little bit because it shouldn't be treated that way. That's not how people should view it.
No.
But that's very much how it's interpreted by people.
Totally.
Like you're not as valiant if you came home from your mission early.
Yeah. I'd rather you die than not serve your full 2 years that you're paying for so you can preach a whitewashed version of the gospel that I love. Imagine telling that
to your child.
Couldn't be me.
This also gives
couldn't be me.
Spencer W. Kimball, former prophet of the Mormon Church, vibes in his god-awful book called The Miracle of Forgiveness, where he essentially says, guard your virtue with your life, and if you can't, you might as well just be dead. So
yeah.
He's a real winner. Yeah.
Spencer Kimball. Elders and sisters had to sit on far sides of the rooms from each other in all meetings with lots of space in between. Like even in the chapel during zone conferences, zone conferences is just like meetings that they would hold and they would do trainings and stuff like that. It was all really redundant because it was just the same stuff that you were learning about and practicing with your own companions, just repackaged in a way that seemed like it would be more effective, and it's all just the same recycled garbage. 2, elders and sisters were not allowed to be on the phone with one another for longer than 60 seconds, including the district leader calling for end-of-week stats. Those stats are like how many lessons you taught and how many investigators you have that are learning about the gospel and how many baptisms you had and things like that. We would literally have to hang up and call back if it was going longer than 60 seconds. Jesus Christ, that is...
Tell me how that's efficient. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Let's see. I think that was all the ones I had.
You want to read just that one? The one where we talked about... I'm going to cut that one where I was talking about my mission because it comes off a little xenophobia-ish.
Which one?
I can't remember which one it was, but I'll tell you which one it is when I figure it out.
This one I wanted to include because it's really interesting. So there are some missions where missionaries get called to serve in visitor centers.
These are usually at like church history sites, places of historical significance. The church will put like a visitor center where people can learn about that specific site and also just Mormonism in general.
So there's a lot of tourists that come to these areas. And so one of the biggest ones obviously is the Salt Lake City Temple. People come from all over to see it. And so the area around it is called Temple Square. And so what they do is they have sister missionaries that are assigned.
Only sister missionaries.
That are assigned to Temple Square. And the running joke is that essentially only the gorgeous girls get sent to the Temple Square mission.
Gorgeous, gorgeous girls serve at Temple Square.
Yep. Because they've got to be, there's this very common thing.
Prim and proper Mormon women.
Yeah. And they want that to be associated with the church. And so what a better way to do that than have the gorgeous women serving at Temple Square. So
I will say, though, it is really cool. They get a really diverse population of missionaries from all over the world, which is really refreshing. But
it is. Well, and they try to have as much language, like other language speakers present as possible because of the amount of people that from different countries that end up coming to Temple Square. So this is from a sister who worked at a visitor center. Couldn't have her hair in a bun, no chipped nail polish, had a whole training about how to walk up and down stairs properly. Lots of talks about not eating too many M&Ms or else the scale would get cracked out. Excuse me?
Training about how to walk up and down stairs properly. Is that so...
Hello? Jesus cares about what now?
Is that so your butt doesn't bounce up and down, or so people don't like
track
look
of
up
your boobs or
what?
what?
Oh my God, they're covered up anyway. No, that is too much for people to have to be worrying about.
So now this would never be applied anywhere else other than in visitor center or Temple Square or historical site venues. This does not apply to other sister missionaries in other areas. Like
that's
no. Chipped nail polish. Most probably mission presidents would say not painting your nails is not a priority. There are probably some who won't allow it. So
eating too many M&Ms. I won't even go into the fat phobia that exists in missionary culture. Not even going to touch on that.
And mind you, things have transitioned a little bit. They do encourage women to be present themselves, not necessarily wear makeup, but they encourage you to look well put together because you are interacting with people and they don't want people to think that these sloppy sister missionaries. But obviously they're not going to tell that to the elders.
Yeah. Elders don't have to worry about shit because you can just look like garbage. There are still you can't have hair like this when you're an elder.
Nope.
But really it's a way more played down.
Okay, so let's end on a funny one.
Good God, thank you. God.
Do you want to read this one?
I'll read it. My mission president once told us during his own conference that if we had diarrhea, instead of staying home, we should just contact around our apartment buildings so we could get back to the toilet quick, but still spread the gospel. Oh my God.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on. Is that not the funniest shit you've ever heard?
All right, for the sake of I can piggyback off of this story, I'm going to expose myself a little bit here. I was in this situation. My tummy was hardened, right? Luckily, where I lived, it was an apartment building really right next to, it was kind of a Walmart subsidiary store. So I was literally, I could hear the music playing from my bed if the door was open. And we were like, we need toilet paper. We're going to go and just get toilet paper and then we'll be right back.
Was it a Sunday?
It was a Saturday and it was fucking insane. There were so many people there. So we got our toilet paper. We're standing in line and I'm struggling, right? Not only did my tummy hurt and for that reason I was struggling, but I was also hella dehydrated because I'm a jackass, right? And in front of everybody, at one point, my companion turns to me and he's like, "Elder, are you okay?" And I just pass out in the middle of the store. And we didn't get the toilet paper. We had to hightail it out of there, and he got me back to the apartment, and I passed out again in the apartment. That was fun. So I was pooping my guts out, and then the embarrassment of passing out in the middle of the store, it was just too much to handle.
Missionary experience. So
there you go.
They really value the missionaries' health and well-being. Really.
So there you have it. There's a little bit. We haven't really talked about too much missionaries on our channel before, so this was kind of refreshing. My time as a missionary has great value and great shame attached to it, so it's kind of an ambiguous place for me where I'm like, oh, this was a good time, but then I remember what I was doing and I feel bad about it. So
but you loved the people.
I love Honduras, and I will continue to love Honduras. And I really want to go back sometime if it didn't have to do with colonization of a foreign people. So, yeah. Well, let's end on that note. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so. If you've made it this far,
You're amazing.
You for being here, and we love you. We also did post our first exclusive video on Patreon.
What?
And it is no small video. It was 45 minutes.
Dang.
It was very fun. We very much enjoyed it. And this is the beginning of our creating of exclusive vault videos for our Patreon.
Yeah.
So if you would like access to those videos, we will be doing one a month to start. If you would like access to those, you can hop over to our Patreon, link in the description, and you can become a patron. All of our tiers have access to that video, so even if you're in our lowest tier, which is $3 a month, you will get access to those exclusive videos.
Yep. And you can vote on the last video of every month. We're going to have the patrons vote on. That will be to the public. But if you would like to cast your vote and have a say in what we talk about on this channel, what you want to see, what you want to listen to, if you're on a podcast, if you're a podcast listener, hop over to the Patreon and you can participate in that. On the note of the exclusive video that we did, last time we talked about Trash by Tyler Glenn. This next time, I've seen a bunch of good comments. Something that popped into my mind was Mormon parody videos of like music videos and stuff like that. I'm considering it. If that's what you'd like to see, let us know.
The secondhand embarrassment.
Oh my God. I relived one just before we listened to this, and I'm like, Jordan, look at this. And I felt awkward just sitting there in front of the computer as she was watching it.
It's so bad.
It was bad.
If there's a place where cringe applies liberally, that's the time.
Yeah.
So
join us on our Patreon. We would love to have you. There's a lot of amazing stuff and a lot of amazing perks that you can get if you do that.
Go follow us on Instagram. I post on there every day. Follow us on TikTok. We're on there as well.
At Jordan and McKay, you can find us on both of those. We have a Discord. If you are listening, you can find the Discord invite in the description of the YouTube video that we are uploading, or any of our YouTube videos. It's all in the description. That also applies to our Teespring and our Etsy store, Happy Brain Collective. You can find those in the description of the YouTube video. Lastly, I don't know why we put this last. If you got this far and you would like to see more, hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you. We got a lot of people who watch who don't subscribe. Which,
yeah, if that's you, come on.
We see you. We have metrics.
I can see it.
And we look at our metrics, and there's a lot of people
eyes.
who watch who are not subscribed. We love our subscribers. They're amazing. We love the people who just view. That is supporting us. But if you want to do a little more, the subscribe button is down there.
If you would like to honor me on my birthday, please consider donating to the Yellowstone Wolf Project and sending it our way. If you do so we can match it, and then we will screenshot all of our donations based on what you guys do.
In financial danger.
Do it.
Do it.
I will give all my money to the wolves. No shame.
So, yeah, awesome. Thanks, everybody, for listening, for watching. And we love you, and we'll see you next time.